Nestled on the western edge of Port Phillip Bay, an hour and a half's drive from the deadly intrigues of Melbourne, lies Gateway City, the hub of the region, G-Town. For the last 4 decades, an uneasy peace has existed between the Anarchs and Camarilla in G-Town, their borders meeting on Bruce Street in the very centre of the city. The two sects divide the domain neatly in two. The native Anarchs, consolidated in the industrial north, have learned to tolerate Prince Aveline and her Camarilla invaders, and she in turn grants all Anarchs the right to hunt and conduct business in her waterfront domain. Anarch rabble-rousers and Camarilla traditionalists each afford their counterparts a reluctant respect. Until now. Word from Melbourne has reached the kindred of G-Town. Prince Squizzy wages a war on 3 fronts against a newly reorganised Anarch faction, Sabbat infiltrators, and the onslaught of the Second Inquisition. As refugees from both sects flood into Gateway to escape the oncoming chaos, local tensions flare, and the truce that has maintained peace since 1983 will be pushed to its limits. Welcome to Lords of G-Town, a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition actual play podcast presented by DM Fiat Podcast, with music by Kevin MacLeod, White Bat Audio, Ivan Duch, and Jaxius Music. Now, as the sun sets on the city and the blood stirs, let's see what horrors the kindred face this night. Alright, we're back. Part 2 of Questions of Mercy. And there's probably not going to be a lot of mercy tonight. We're going to get right into it, cold open. It's coming to midnight in Gateway, and this is perhaps the most busy time of the night at Gateway General Hospital. The lobby is filled with the dregs of society, moaning, coughing, first casualties of the flu season, the unfortunate victims of alcohol-fueled shenanigans while out clubbing, and those who've just plain run afoul of Lady Luck on this rather cool late May night. Wolf has just managed to sneak into reception and has spied Dr. Giovanni's name on the duty roster. You found out what room you may find him in, room 203, over in the East Wing, beyond the ER and the operating theatres, and perhaps very strangely, Wolf, before you returned to the others, you noticed that it looked as if Dr. Giovanni's name had been only recently added to the duty roster, the ink still gleaming and fresh, whereas the other names were printed and faded. Had been there for quite some time, almost as if Dr. Giovanni had only recently been appointed to his station, as if this was all just a very last-minute coincidence. And so, you're sitting in the last few vacant seats in the reception area, waiting for Marion, surrounded by the moans, groans, and spluttering of the sick, the ill, and, well, they're probably not dying, but they sound like they're dying and seem to think they're dying, and all around you the sounds of all the people who have been waiting here for hours and hours to be seen and are still grumbling. Oh, the fuck are they? Won't put one fucking nurse on a night like this. Oh, me leg's fucking killing me. It's gonna fall off unless the doctor comes out. Should have gone private. And then you hear the sound of the front doors swishing open. Whoosh. And you hear the telltale sound of Marion approaching. Her soft, sharp footfalls on the linoleum floor as she scans the room. Sees you all waiting, huddled together off in one of the dark, distant corners, and makes a beeline towards you, braving the cacophonous maelstrom of the hospital lobby. Marion's looking quite a bit more put together than she was earlier this night. She told you to go ahead, that she'd catch up with you, and based on the look on her face, the colour in her cheeks, the sense that she's slightly more composed, you all get the feeling that she's just been hunting. And Wolf, you have the location of Dr. Giovanni fresh in your mind. The time for waiting is past. Marion has an appointment with Dr. Giovanni, thanks to you. So I'll leave it up to you to take from here.
How are we doing tonight?
As good as can be expected, considering our previous performance, but while you're out doing whatever it is you're doing, I discovered exactly where this Giovanni is. You can beeline straight to him.
Oh, you don't say. And where
You're waiting around the
be?
waiting room for us. Yeah, Wolf relays on exactly which room it is. He's already studied the floor plan up on the wall for the
he sure has.
The fire plan, and knows exactly how to get there.
It's not too far. The emergency entrance where you've come in from is just about where the west wing meets the east wing. It's like about directly in the center of the hospital. So, it's only a short walk from where you are, but as you gaze around and notice that there's but a single exit of the lobby that leads into the hospital beyond, and there is a single triage nurse just standing against the wall, arms folded, looking bored as he occasionally passes his gaze over the lobby, making sure that nobody jumps ahead in line and pushes beyond those doors into the hospital without being admitted.
Quite a little worker bee, aren't you, Wolf?
That's why I'm here.
It's very impressive.
It's effective. I'd say the minimum.
Indeed it is. Shall we just get it over and done with then?
See if you're all prepared, if everybody else is prepared.
Are we all prepared?
Yeah, I can't. Hospitals are fucking depressing. Let's get a move on.
In fact, as Tig says this, he stands up, and the plastic seat sort of like groans in relief as it feels his weight lift off it, and as if to accentuate his words, someone in the background just shouts out, "For fuck's sake, 2 fucking hours now!"
Wolf gestures to the nurse, who seems to be being the bouncer for the rest of the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a bouncer in all but name.
Yeah, I can get anywhere I need to go, but I can't exactly, vouch for all of you. Since you're here, can you do that thing that you seem to do?
Well, you don't have to approach the bouncer if you don't want to. There are other ways into the west wing of the hospital, but you'll have to sneak around on the grounds, but Bridget's pretty good at getting people to let her through places she's not meant to be. So
More than happy to just use
Yeah.
the blunt force method.
yeah,
Wolf can get anywhere he needs to if people are just looking from a distance, but conversation, it's not going to work.
So you all want to stay as a group? All of you go together, so you turn up at Dr. Giovanni's office all together and, give him as little chance as possible to try to avoid you, since there's going to be a whole bunch of you.
Sure.
Honestly, I can't talk my way out of a wet paper bag most days, so got no time for lying, so I'll just stay with you.
I think that would work best. I'd appreciate your assistance in all of this. Thank you very much. And as Marion gets to walking towards the balancer, she just looks to Wolf and she says, "Now, is there anything you can tell me about this, Mr. Giovanni?" And as she passes the bouncer, she just looks him in the eyes and says, "Let us through."
Opens his mouth, he raises his hand to point at the reception counter. He's about to just repeat his lazy line that he said 1,000,000 times tonight. You go to reception, go sign in, but he doesn't get the words out. Instead, his eyes glaze over, and he smiles and nods and steps back, gestures towards the doors, and says, sure, yeah.
Marion continues on without acknowledging him.
Just down the hallway, he trails off. And
Yes, so about this Giovanni, all I could glean was he seems to be a new addition here, actually. Brand new. I'm not sure exactly how recently, but the ink is barely still dry.
Yes, I'm less than surprised to hear that.
Yeah, and he's been doing a very good job of avoiding you thus far, but tonight, you get the feeling tonight's the night that there's a reason he's here. And it's almost as if you're playing into the hands of whoever put him here. So, as you make your way through the maze of corridors towards room 203, you're assaulted by the smells and the sounds and the senses of the hospital, the sharp chemical smells of cleaning products, the bright, intensely unpleasant fluorescent lights that remind you just slightly too much of sunlight, the distant coughs and groans, the clip-clop of doctors and nurses silently determined, making their way down the corridors, occasionally stopping and nodding at you on their way past. And as you move into the East Wing, and Wolf points out the most direct route to Dr. Giovanni's office, you find yourselves on the corridor that makes its way directly past the operating theatres. And as you approach, you feel your beast begin to stir. And then that familiar, rustic, sweet, sickly smell of blood begins to eat through the cleaning products and the fluorescent light. And you realize that you're about to essentially walk past a room where there is blood splashed in torrents all over the floor, where people are literally being cut open and the scent of blood is strong and very possibly overwhelming.
Hold on, just to clarify, are we talking about, like, Dead Space operations going on here? Or are we talking about just, like, regular operations?
We are talking about World of Darkness operations, which actually aren't that different from real-world operations, just maybe with a bit less of an eye to safety and with a bit more blood splashed around the floor of the operating theatre.
Okay, so it's not nefarious, it's just extreme.
No, It's just you're about to pass a room where people are being cut open, and you're vampires,
Right, okay.
and you can smell that blood. It is going to pique your interest.
So Giovanni isn't causing bizarre things happen. Yeah, cool, got it.
That you could, well, he might be, but
Not here.
as far as you know,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is just what you would expect from an operating theatre. This is the
Tig
most
is,
Go ahead, Tig.
Tig's gonna shift to put himself. Make sure that when they pass the door, he's between it and Bouncer.
That is a good choice.
She's been kind of frazzled lately.
I was going to say Marion's definitely eyeing Bouncer just at the corner of her eye as they walk past.
Yeah.
Marion will be fine. She ate just a minute ago, so.
In the background, Mitch is sort of fidgeting nervously. You can see his nostrils flaring as he takes in the smell of blood that grows stronger and stronger as you make your way down the corridor. And then he just stops, reaches into his pocket, pulls out his phone, stares at it, and then blankly nods, looking back at you. And in a monotone, he says, "Oh, well, looks like I won't have to worry at all. Hawthorne needs me." And with absolutely no fanfare, he just turns and starts making his way back down the corridor.
Marion.
"Primogen business, he calls out, raising his hand to wave.
Marion just raises an eyebrow and just says to the group, "Girls' night, I guess."
Excuse me, Ian.
The tape recorder gets a new note. Mitchell becoming unreliable.
Yeah.
Oh, I have pronouns, and they're him.
So,
Interesting.
this is the most direct route to Office 203, and passing by the operating theatre will get you to Dr. Giovanni's room within the next 5 minutes. Wolf, you do remember that there are other ways around. You could take a detour through the radiology section, pop out the other side at room 203 and avoid having to potentially risk stirring your beasts by walking past the operating theatre, but at the same time, you'll be giving Dr. Giovanni a few extra minutes to...
I was hungry for everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, this really depends on how hungry everyone is. I'm on 2.
I'm on 1.
I'm on 1.
I'm on 2.
Oh yeah, we should be fine then. There should be no problem.
Should. Alright.
And so you press on. And
Worst case scenario, I have my ways.
Yeah, you have your ways. You press on. That sweet, intoxicating smell grows stronger. Eventually it drowns out the harsh smelling cleaning products, and you become only vaguely aware of the fluorescent lights burning into your skin as that smell of blood grows stronger and stronger. You can see it just ahead of you to your left, a set of 2 double doors with a big sign above them reading OR1, and something is going on in there. You're distantly aware of the sound of doctors and nurses scuffing their shoes on the floor, of the clang of instruments being reached for and replaced, and the red light is on, indicating that surgery is indeed in progress, and your beasts begin to rumble. It's just like Elysium. They're just leaving it out on the table for you to take. And I would like everybody to make a rouse check, please. You're not hungry
Rouse
enough
check?
to go into frenzy, but there's every chance that this smell could make you hungrier.
Oh, that's made it hungrier.
Ah.
No, not at all.
Success. This isn't his brand.
Yeah. Human blood.
Damn, failure.
Failure. Hunger 3 for Bouncer. And
This is her brand.
yeah, Tig, you see Bouncer stop for just a moment as you are parallel with the door to the operating theatre. You see her stop and hesitate, her eyes immediately bloodshot, and her face switching to stare at the door for just a moment before you grab her and urge her onwards.
Gently.
Gently.
No regrets tonight, yeah? No regrets.
They're leaving it for you to take. The vessel's blade out there. All you need to do is take it. Your beast protests, but you force it into the back of your mind and move on. And Wolf, to be fair, this is hardly the first time you've had to smell fresh blood in your nightly duties and still remain focused on the task at hand.
That is correct. In fact, that's very common.
Thankfully, mercifully, the smell of fresh blood dissipates as suddenly as it overwhelmed and once again is replaced by the sounds, sights, and senses of the hospital. And then, before you know it, you're standing in front of what's apparently Dr. Giovanni's office. A single wooden door with faded, peeling lettering of the number 203. There's a nameplate on the door, but no name, curiously. It's completely empty, and there's no window. It's just a solid white door with an empty nameplate and the number.
Marion's going to take a moment to call upon her spectral servant.
You press your hand to your chest, close your eyes, and curl your fingers around an imaginary object, imagining that you're in your haven. You've unlocked the strong box that contains his fetter. That broken, rusty, old, ancient Roman dagger that for some reason holds so much value to him. You're now clasping your hand around it, calling upon him, and then suddenly the temperature in the hallway drops. You all feel it. It's as if you were dropped out of Gateway Central Hospital into an Antarctic base. If you were living, if blood still flowed freely through your veins, there would be a chance of it freezing solid. If you still drew breath, it would be cloudy vapors around your head. And you're all instantly aware of the feeling of something unseen watching you, judging you. Your Wraith servant has arrived, Marion. He's made his presence obvious to you, and he's awaiting orders.
Yes, my dear, could you just stay on watch for now?
A feeling stirs in the back of your mind, an undercurrent of barely concealed resentment and acceptance. The cold, the freezing temperature remains, and that feeling of being watched does not subside. And you know that your Wraith is lingering here, watching and waiting, just in case.
Apologies for the change in weather, my darlings. Shall we get this over with?
You did that. It's truth. I thought we were about to get jumped. Yeah, alright.
Oh, no, that's just a friend of mine.
Well, I'd hate to see your enemies, except we're gonna tonight, now, ain't we?
I think you'll find they're rather more palatable, generally.
Actually, while we're out of earshot of his office, how do you want this to go down?
Frankly, I don't know enough about the man to really plan much.
So expect anything. Got it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yes, just keep alert, and let's try and handle things as cleanly as possible.
Sentiment I share.
And then,
Right.
Marion, I presume you go ahead and you knock on the door.
She tries the handle.
Yeah. don't even knock, you just grab the handle. You're half expecting it to be locked, but it's not. The handle turns, the door creaks, and you push it open and just stride into the office with the rest of the coterie behind you. You're not sure what you're expecting from this Dr. Giovanni. What you're certainly not expecting is a man who looks roughly in his early 30s, his brow furrowed with tiredness and overwork, wearing an ill-fitting white doctor's coat and very thick bifocals, looking up at you from a desk, frowning as he seems to recognize you, and then silently gesturing for you to take a seat in front of his desk. I'm going to put a picture of Dr. Giovanni up in Owlbear so you can see what he looks like.
Oh, okay. It's kind of cute.
Doogie Howser grew up.
Okay. Yeah, Marion will take a seat. She'll be polite about it.
There's only...
I'll stand, thanks.
Yeah, well, just as well, because there's only one seat. It's not the biggest office. You get the impression that Dr. Giovanni isn't a big shot around here. There's just enough room in the office for his desk, a filing cabinet and bookshelf behind him, and a single plastic chair in front of it. But the office, for what it's worth, is well lit, and there's a single window along the right wall that peers down into a brightly lit courtyard below. You take a quick glimpse out the window and the courtyard appears to be empty, save for a single male nurse leaning up against the pole of a street light, enjoying smoko. Ms. Duncern, says Dr. Giovanni. Welcome. I was expecting I would see you sometime tonight, and he peers first up at Tig and then the rest of the coterie. And this would be your coterie, I'm to presume?
Indeed it would be.
He holds out his hand to each of you. Dr. Mark Giovanni, if you please. Pleasure to meet you all. Sorry it's under these circumstances.
Wolf ignores his hand and goes to stand in front of the window.
Good idea. In fact, Wolf, I will get you, while you're standing in front of the window, to go ahead and make me a wits awareness check. Or, since it's you, Wolf, I'll allow you to substitute your intelligence for wits.
They're the same. It's two successes, regardless.
2 successes, alright. We'll get to that in a moment. Tig, Bouncer, do you take the doctor's hand?
Tig does, but he just kind of grunts in return. He doesn't move from his spot at the door.
Yeah. Oh, well, it goes without saying, but I'm glad you didn't bring those dogs of yours in, Mr. Duncern. This is a hospital after all, and hygiene and everything.
My dogs are probably cleaner than you are, for the record.
And you, Bouncer, real name Philippa Anarch, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. He peers over at Wolf, whose back is turned to you as he peers out the window, and him! Well, I wasn't expecting surprises tonight. Thought I was told exactly who to expect, and, well, have no
Is this
idea
supposed to be
who
intimidating?
Oh, not at all. No, I'm simply trying to tell you that, well, I've been waiting for you, and you should feel welcome, and we're all friends here. After all, I understand that among kindred, well, you want to be friendly, and you don't want to be a massive ass. He smiles. You know, that it's better to make friends than enemies. You know, we're all in the same boat together, aren't we?
I mean, one would hope, but
Oh, can we cut to the chase?
Skip the formalities then. Ms. Dunson, I presume you're here to, to thank me for the breakthrough I made on your father. Quite frankly, my best work in my entire career. Not that I've been licensed that long, you understand. He
Yes,
winks.
it was a rather incisive result. Would you mind actually running me through your treatment plan?
Oh, well, he says, he smiles. I think, as a kindred of some renown, you're probably quite aware of the specifics of how the treatment works. Hopefully.
Humor me.
Okay, well, in layman's terms, he's what you would call, he rubs his chin, pretending to think for a moment. He has been made into what you would call a ghoul, you know, the kindred vitae. Can bring someone back from the brink of death, and suddenly, after several months of it, which I may add is more than would be required, especially in such a short period of time, he is, well, it's like he's in the prime of his life once again. A miracle treatment.
Is Giovanni breathing?
I would like you to go ahead and make for me an intelligence investigation check.
Can do. And while she's doing that...
Or you may do a composure investigation check. And anyone else who'd like to see if they could catch him breathing or not breathing could do the same.
Oh, only one success on that. While she's looking, studying him, she says, several months, really, because I found his recovery was quite overnight.
Oh, yes, well, you know, that first drop. The first drop's the one that does it, and then, well, you know, he came in here for weekly appointments, received more of his medicine, and, well, what you see is the end result. Yeah, Bouncer's not going to risk it.
That's 2 successes for Wolf.
2 successes.
2 successes for Tig, after willpower gets spent.
And Marion?
She just got the 1.
Yeah. So you study him for a moment, narrowing your eyes, and you notice one thing, is that he doesn't look as pale as you would expect a kindred to be. He could have the blush of life active. After all, if he's posing as a doctor, he'd need to be able to pass as human. But that's not all. Not only is his face flushed with colour, but when you watch, and when he becomes aware that, when he seems to become aware that you're watching him, you see his chest slowly rise and heave and fall as he quite naturally seems to start breathing before your eyes, almost as if he's very well practiced. And Wolf, in the moment it takes you to turn away from the window and study him and ascertain that he's pretending to breathe, when you turn back around, peer once more down into the courtyard, you see that the single nurse who was there enjoying smoko is gone, and with your 2 successes from before, you catch a brief flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, and glimpse, only for a fraction of a second, something vaguely humanoid with an elongated, devil-like face, long, twisted, pointy ears and spindly limbs, scurrying away into the shadows of a nearby copse of trees and out of sight. Idly tossing a half-smoked cigarette over its shoulder.
Wolf is going to pipe up and say, Mr. Giovanni, do you have employees under your direct authority? So I believe one of them has just run off.
He smiles, and then he laughs. Me? Well, that would be quite a change in the paradigm, wouldn't it, for me to be on top of the totem pole and for others to be underneath? No, I suspect you just saw Estelle, which is, well, she must be extra nervous tonight. Not like her to make a mistake. She's usually fairly good at hiding herself. But what would I know? It's not as if I've seen every Nosferatu and every one with the ability to do that. She could be right terrible at it for all I know.
Right.
Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag, he says.
I take it this room isn't monitored, then.
Oh, well, no. Estelle is, how do you say it? Well, she was alive back when this city was, 3 houses and a post office. So, bugging the room. Please, that wouldn't be her style. She didn't even think to mention it, but she's unusually good at hearing things, unusually good at eavesdropping, and he narrows his eyes as he scans the room and... He points with his finger. You look over your shoulders at where he's pointing just in time to see an unusually large bogong moth spread its wings and flitter out through the open door into the corridor outside. There we go, he says.
Can Marion communicate with Atticus silently?
Yeah.
She's going to instruct him to follow her.
A voice, a low, vaguely accented voice echoes in your mind. A string of words in Latin, and based on the tone in which they're being spoken, probably swear words. And then, follow an insect. Follow an insect. Once had a whole legion under me. Reduced
Just
to
the
following
insect,
you.
darling.
He doesn't speak up again, but you feel the lingering cold from outside in the corridor slowly dissipate. The temperature slowly returns to normal, indicating that he's moved on. You have his fetter, after all, locked away in your haven. And he must obey.
Marion communicates her thanks.
He doesn't say anything, but this is normal. He rarely does. The only time he talks, it's to grumble, to lament the situation he's in, to speak about how the mighty have fallen, but, well, there's a begrudging respect that he holds for you, and maybe one day he actually will respond. Dr. Giovanni seems to notice you, just staring off in your own world for a moment. And he says,
going to say, go on.
Yep.
Go.
Ms. Duncern, is everything okay?
Just racking my brains for a term from your profession. I believe it's informed consent.
He thinks for a moment, then he shrugs. My profession. Someone's profession. I'll admit, don't think I made it quite that far in med school. He gives you a wry smile. Look, the cat's out of the bag. Your friend here, who still hasn't introduced himself, has spotted Estelle making an uncharacteristic mistake. she's aware that you're here. I have a feeling she probably wanted to listen in to see exactly how you were going to grill me. And look, Estelle doesn't pay me near enough to try to stall you any longer, so if you tell me what you want to know, I'll be as forthcoming as I can.
Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing this? Well, because I was told to, of course. One such as me, one who is deemed not good enough to be afforded the same rights and privileges.
So that's what you meant about the totem pole.
I presume, he pauses once more, holding out his hand, giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Wolf is going to look slightly confused. This man is not communicating like a normal human being whatsoever.
No, he's not.
Tigger's gonna speak up. Rights and privileges. You wouldn't happen to be a thin blood, would you, mate?
With a chicken dinner, he says, smiling, beaming.
All right.
A thin
Okay.
blood who just wants to be treated like everyone else. And it just so happens Estelle is kind enough to, ensure that people don't, kill me on sight. She puts the word in for me amongst the proper kindred. And all I have to do is, lend her my admittedly very in demand, very unique skills. I'm
Which
good
might
at
be?
I'm good at passing for human. Where you have to will your blood to pump through the body to restore color, blush to your cheeks. For me, it happens. Normally I could go downstairs, I could head down the hallway now, I could buy one of those awful sandwiches from the vending machine, and I could just eat it naturally as anything and pass as human.
Oh, they're bad now. Fuck, this place used to have really good sandwiches.
Ah, well, you clearly haven't been here in... When did the
It's
new
been a
company
while.
come in? Before my time, at least. He smiles.
Speaking of notion, whose blood is in her father?
Yes, quite right.
It goes without saying that, my blood, probably couldn't sustain his boundless energy for more than an hour or
Right.
so.
So is it
No.
Estelle's then?
Right, he nods. It's Estelle's blood. See, it was her doing some of that, what you would call it. You know, she appears and she appears somewhere and everyone around her thinks she's just meant to be there. And, she went in and she altered the records and everyone in the hospital, no one questioned that suddenly there's a new doctor on the roster.
And
And
still
so
is your
I-
sire?
I suppose, yes, the relationship would be what you would say would be the relationship between a sire and a child, but,
No
Alas.
disfigurement, yes.
alas, no, she did not physically embrace me. I wish she did, he says. Sure, I would look like roadkill, but at least I would be afforded the privilege of being considered an actual kindred by the bigots up top. No offense to present company.
None taken. The camp really is full of bigots.
Estelle is, she explained it to me. I am 14 steps removed from the original vampire, and she is only 12. So, if she did embrace me, none of this would be happening, I think. I'd be out doing vampire things.
This is all very fascinating, but it doesn't cut to the chase. Marion.
Thank you, darling. Look, Mark, was it?
Yes. Mark Giovanni.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Mark. Who instructed you to administrate to my father?
Well, it was Estelle. And normally I would not be involved with her petty schemes, her feuds. As I understand it, she has a lot of enemies. She's seen as something of a troublemaker, and I'm on thin ice as it is. But, well, let's just say that this one afforded me an opportunity to get back at the Hecata for what they did to me, and I could not turn it up.
Moving on. Who does this Estelle answer to then?
Oh, herself, I think. Well, if she answers to anyone else, she wouldn't. If she answers to anyone else, she never let me know. Said she's calling the shots anyway. Now, she did threaten me, on pain of final death, mind you. Not to reveal exactly what she intends with you, but she did order me to meet with you. Drop her... well, I wasn't supposed to drop her name either, but that's on her. If your friend hadn't noticed her skipping away, I would have merely told you that the answers await at this location. And he
So in other words, she just continues talking while he does this. You know her intentions and you're withholding them from us?
Some of them. Not all of it, mind you. Bear in mind my station. But, you know, she divulged enough of it that I wanted to at least help her see it through.
My goodness, you talk a lot. Look, is this Estella particularly forgiving, Master?
Well, she did threaten to tear me a new one, to kill me, to stake me and leave me under the Cowie's Bay Bridge. And mind you know, my kind, when we're staked, well, that's severe trauma to our systems, you know.
And if you were coerced?
Well, wasn't much coercion required. And
No, if you were coerced to not cooperate with said orders.
Well, then I would see it as the person coercing me must have made a better offer than hers, and if they did, then that's just on her for not covering her tracks effectively, I would say.
So she'd be likely to punish you regardless of your ability to follow her orders.
I would hope that she would accept that I am just the thin blood, and, you know, we're dealing with the likes of Marion Duncern here.
Okay, that will do. Tell me everything you know. Do you want me to roll for dominate or just
you dominating him?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead. And are you using compel, or are you using...
I don't have compel, it's always mesmerize.
She
doesn't get hungrier.
Doesn't get hungrier, but go ahead and roll for me. Manipulation plus dominate. And he's going to do intelligence plus resolve.
While this is going on, Wolf is going to be kind of flipping over his knife in his hands.
That'll be 5 points.
Ooh, Wolf. So Wolf, go ahead for
It's not an intimidation roll or anything like that.
not?
He's
just flipping his knife.
just in case he's told he has to die.
We do have someone who is good at intimidating, though. Bouncer. You're sitting there you're sitting there standing next to Tig, and seeing that Marion's taking the domination tack, but this thin blood, at the very least, seems to be doing his best attempt at resisting it. He just stares straight back into her eyes, his face goes neutral, his lips thin. And, well, there are other ways to get information out of people, Bouncer.
Tig has also got something to do, but go for it. If you got something you want to do, go for it, man. If not, that's okay. I got something.
Because I will say, that Dr. Giovanni rolled a critical 7 successes.
Oh, damn.
Jesus.
And so he just stares blankly right back into Marion's face, and he smiles and he says, "I may be a thin blood, but I know what your kind is capable of. Like I said, make me a better offer than Estelle's. Then maybe I'll be willing to talk. Because at the moment, if she gets an inkling that I'm selling her out, well, that'll be the end of it for me."
Mate. I ain't the brightest tool in the shed, and even I can see how she's playing you.
Quickly.
She's
sorry,
set you up. Sorry, go ahead.
Just quickly, remind me of the Camarita's stance on Thin Bloods in
Thin
this
Bloods?
area.
If as far as the cam is concerned, he doesn't exist.
Okay, good to know.
Mate.
Are we in a blood hunt on site jurisdiction, or...
Such a blood hunt on site? There isn't a scourge in Gateway, this isn't Melbourne, but if you were to do something to him, you would not be held accountable for it. It's more of a, we don't go out of our way to kill or harm Thin Bloods, but if someone wants to hunt them for fun and sport, we won't do anything because they're not real kindred.
Duly noted.
Okay, look, mate. How do I explain this?
This was indeed Cam territory, the hospital, so...
How do I explain this? Estelle set you up to do this and be the face man, so that when 5 moderately peeved vampires come looking for who done this, you would end up alone in a room with him instead of her.
In Camarilla territory, no less.
And of these 5, 3 of them don't have any problem with decorating the ceiling fan with your innards.
Look, I
cannot
recommend that, but I understand the sentiment.
I'm just saying, it comes to me that Estelle is probably cashing you in like a poker chip in order to try and slow us down.
Did she tell you at all what was at this next destination you were supposed to relay us onto? Or you had a loop of that as well?
He reaches into his coat, he pulls out what looks like a business card, and it's in fairly ragged condition. It's the type of business card you'd expect Tig to have in his Rolodex. The edges are frayed, it's covered in muck and grime. The font choice shouts loudly 1980s, and it's for an import-export business up in the northern suburbs, up in the industrial, distinctly anarch part of G-Town. Yes, we'll say it's called Art Vandelay Import-Export. I was just supposed to give you this, tell you that the person responsible for turning Ms. Dunson's father into a ghoul was there, and then throw up my hands and swear I had nothing else to do with it. But I understand. I'm in a room with 5 kindred, real kindred, and like you say,
real, mate.
Nice of you to say so, but let's cut to the chase. If you wanted to splay me out on the roof, I wouldn't be able to do a damn thing. So, yes, seeing you walk in, seeing how Estelle was careless enough for your rather unnerving friend here to catch her ducking out, let's say I'm willing to switch sides, provided I have the right incentive. So
what's the name on the business card?
Or
is there no name?
It's no name at all. There's just an address and then a thing saying for import/export needs and a phone number, but based on the age of the card, you kind of get the impression the phone number wouldn't even be connected anymore.
Right. If I was going to erase 5 vampires, I would send them out to a strange address as well.
Yeah.
So, what kind of incentive are we talking, mate? You mentioned he had a grudge on against them Carter. Does it have something to do with that?
Well, first, I'll ask Tig to go ahead and make for me a charisma manipulation check for what you were saying before.
Oh, wow.
And
Not intimidation? I mean, it's the same number either way.
oh yeah, you can do intimidation, but I was then going to say he peers over at Bouncer, the only one who's been silent most of this time. His eyes narrow and he says, "Sure what to make of you, Ms. Philippa Bouncer. They say you don't think twice about fucking people up, and yet you've stood here and not made any movement towards me. And so I'm wondering, could I get Bouncer to go to bat for me?"
What? The other reason I haven't done anything yet is because I'm... Well, this is something bigger than me, so I'm more just here to make sure you don't go for the door.
And if I
I'd like a dancer might too.
If I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm guessing that you're here for the same reason as me, Bouncer, and that is we're backing our friend up. Because somebody's fucking with her family. So it's really her call on what happens here, yeah?
Still, you've given me the time of day, the time of night, rather than just pasting me over the floor, so hypothetically, if I did decide that I'd rather take my chances with Estelle and made a break for the door, he looks over in Bouncer's direction.
If you did?
No, just looking back at him, and then Bouncer's just going to put a hand on the back of the seat, the one seat in the room, and then just slowly push down on it until it breaks.
Does anyone have any dots in insight, I will ask? I presume Wolf does.
Insight? No.
Yeah, I've got 3.
Yeah, so Marion...
1.
This is very bizarre behavior, and to you, it reads as he's trying to sort of get an impression of whether you are authorized to hurt him or not. And he's trying to sort of find out if you are under orders or something to keep him alive, how far he can push you. And of course, you're not. You're not under any compulsion to keep him in one piece, but he doesn't know that, so he's sort of like deliberately needling Tig and Bouncer, trying to see if he can push them to a point where they'll admit that they can't touch him. And so, with that knowledge in mind, do you turn to Bouncer and just like nod approvingly as she crunches the back of the chair?
No, she's subtler than that. Sort of. Mr. Giovanni, are you familiar with something called the traditions? Has anyone actually filled you in?
Don't embrace without permission, don't break the masquerade, something like that, he says. Unfortunately, my class is not deemed worthy of education.
Yeah, they're not deemed worthy of much. In Camarilla territory, you're treated the same as a cockroach. If we destroy you, nobody cares. Not a person.
So Bouncer...
That's not a threat, that's a fact.
Well, given I'm wearing a doctor's coat, I suppose I should trust the facts. Go ahead, Bouncer, and make me a charisma plus intimidation check, and you may add an extra dice for Wolf and Marion's additional comments.
Ooh. And can I
Of course, you
daunt
can.
on?
Yeah, you can throw your daunt on. He's not going to know. He's not going to have any idea what you're even doing. He's just going to see you crushing the back of this chair like it's made of paper.
And then +1 for the other two. I'm gonna will that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna will that and re-roll that crit.
Bouncer
God.
doing
Oh!
things again.
As
Well-
you're doing this,
You can also
Marion
reroll
simply
two of the
says-
figures, but
Yeah.
it's your call. Your call.
What's Marion doing?
Wolf is here for cleanup if necessary.
Yeah, that's good.
I
thing we
will also,
brought-
Why
I will
he's
also point
here.
out though, my thing doesn't. It specifies I do crit. I do damage, but it doesn't have to be physical. It
Yeah,
can be
doesn't-
mental
It
damage,
can be mental damage
depending on
because
what's
of your
happening.
bane. If you messy crit, so are you messy critting or are you?
Living up to your reputation.
before this plays out, Marion just says, there are 6 traditions, at least the primary ones, and strictly speaking, only one really refers to how we may deal with our kind. We are forbidden to destroy another of our kind, in fact, is the wording. You, my dear, do not qualify as our kind.
Well, exactly what Estelle said. So, in fact, that's actually justified what she was going to do to me. My word! Is she... He looks over at Bouncer. The chair, it's... You just hear the sound, you hear this loud crunching filling the room as Bouncer's hand grips the back of the chair, while Marion is still sitting in it, I might add, and just tears the back of it off and crumples it into a ball like it was made of paper.
Marion simply stares into Giovanni's eyes and smiles.
So, Bouncer, is that going to be a messy crit?
No, I rerolled, so it's
No.
just 4 regular successes.
Or regular? That's going to
Four
do
is
it.
pretty good.
Yeah.
You toss the crumpled ball of plastic onto the floor, and instantly the colour drains from Dr. Giovanni's face, and for a moment he looks like a kindred. He's got that same pale, sickly mask of death that you have. He takes a moment to compose himself, gulps, and the colour rushes into his cheeks once again. And he says, well, Stell's never done that. Okay, so you've made your point clear. See, I thought maybe Ms. Duncern was under the orders of the Hecata or something, and you were sent to maybe rough me up, but, leave me be, and that's clear that's not the case.
Sweetheart, darling, you will never be in a position to negotiate. Do you understand?
He just nods. I understand. As it will
That's a
be
good
for
point.
all eternity. Right. So, Estelle has an axe to grind with the Hecata. I don't know why. It's got something to do with Pentex, something to do with that platform they're building, something to do with something she asked of them back in the 90s. A boon or something that they didn't honor, something to do with, she called it a touchstone. Okay. She didn't give me the specifics, but here's where I come in. Obviously, you've noticed that I'm going by Dr. Giovanni. Well, that is, whether you believe it or not, my real name. And as I understand it, everyone with the name Giovanni is constantly being evaluated as to whether they may be considered useful enough to the Hecata to be granted the embrace. It turns out that they thought I was a fairly good ghoul, weren't willing to give me the embrace. And so, when the clan cast me out, I turned to the only person I could. A low-ranking member, as I understand it, who was on thin ice themselves. Their service in the clan was about to be...
Names, Mr. Giovanni.
Names. Michael Dunson, he says, letting the name roll off his tongue, and I would like both Marion and Tig to go ahead and make either intelligence or wits plus either politics or occult checks for me.
Sure.
Oh, this is gonna be amusing. Hey, 1 success.
Good.
Oh, that's a bestial failure.
Bestial failure.
Oh,
So-
I'm gonna reroll a failure.
Reroll.
Yeah, I don't
We
want
don't
to
get
make
a
a mess
beast.
here.
Yeah.
That's 1 success, and I'm also gonna roll composure real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead. See if you're composed.
And she gets 2 on that.
2. So, Marion, for a moment, you lose that veneer of cool, calm collectedness that characterizes you. You ask him for names, and he takes a few seconds to pretend to think about it. And every question you ask him, he's dancing around it. He's acting as if he wants to help you, and then saying that he can't. He's generally just acting very bizarre and annoying, and it is grating on your nerves, and your beast is just demanding that you take this whelp, look into his eyes, and get it out of him. Keep trying. It doesn't matter if you reduce every fiber of his being to a gibbering mess. But you compose yourself, and then you and Tig. The name Michael Duncern rings a bell. Tig, you only know Michael Duncern as a fairly distant member of your family, a second cousin, or something along those lines. You remember meeting him once or twice at family reunions way back. And it suddenly occurs to you that the last time you saw him, or indeed ever heard from him at all, would have been around 1985? 1986?
Wait. Michael Dunson?
And the name's also familiar to you, Marion. It was shortly after you'd been selected for the embrace. You remember being in the position that this Mark Giovanni was in. How many years did you serve as a ghoul for the Giovanni family before you finally got the embrace? Decade. Maybe even more. Anywhere, somewhere between 10 and 15 years. They're all a blur to you. And, well, it was decided that if anyone was to be your sire, it would probably be Michael Duncern. After all, he was a distant relative of your father's, and it would be keeping it within your family bloodline. None of the Giovanni expected the level of performance you provided, Marion. You turned G-Town's business world on its head, and that earned you a bump up the ladder. Not an embrace from a Duncern, but an embrace from the Giovanni themselves. By that point, Michael Duncern had fallen into disfavour anyway. It had become common knowledge that he was only 13th generation, and, well, all prospects of him embracing a child into the clan were thrown out of the window, and you remember rumblings of him taking this as a personal affront, vowing that he would indeed have a child, that he would make him prove himself to the clan, and then, well, he disappeared, and you always assumed he was just disposed of in the typical fashion.
Unleash the power of hellfire with Pentex's Infernium. Tired of those boring, eco-friendly energy sources? Want to make a real statement about your disregard for the environment and your commitment to chaos? Look no further. Introducing Infernium. Sick of sunlight? We are too. Our patented Inferno reactors run on the blood-curdling screams of the damned. Harness the torment of lost souls for all your energy needs. Worried about the planet? Don't be. With Infernium, we're melting the polar ice caps faster than you can say climate change. The only place hotter than hell is the Earth. Save big on your energy bills. Forget renewable energy. Our Infernium is so cost-effective that the only thing you need pay is with your soul. You'll be laughing all the way to the underworld. Embrace the chaos. Infernium is so unpredictable it'll keep you on your toes. Experience random blackouts, unexpected explosions, and spontaneous demon summonings, all included in your Pentex subscription. Act now. Don't miss out on the chance to become a true energy outlaw. Join the infernal revolution with Infernium and Pentex Corporation today. Disclaimer. Pentex Corporation takes no responsibility for any demonic possessions, eternal damnations, or accidental summonings of ancient evil entities that may result from using our products and services. Use at your own risk, and may the fires of chaos forever light your way.
So, Dr. Giovanni stammers. He was, effectively no longer in the clan, and he had an axe to grind, and so I reached out to him, because I was denied the chance to be embraced. I wasn't going to be a ghoul forever. And he was looking for someone to embrace. We both were wronged by the clan. And so he gave me his gift, his curse. And I am what you see before you. And Michael disappeared. Not long after that. Nobody among the kindred saw fit to even acknowledge my existence until Estelle. Estelle, who has her own issues with the Hecata. This is, of course, all ancient history to you, Ms. Duncern.
Oh, Mark. Oh, no. Oh, honey. I still may have issues with the Hecata, but I assure you that just about any clan or any faction would have done the same with your sire. There are very strict rules against these things, actually.
Rules against my existence. So what was I to accept? Being a ghoul for the rest of eternity? I suppose I'm not much more than a glorified ghoul. At least.
No, you're a ghoul with, less sway for one.
Well, I accept that simply existing as I am, I have burnt bridges with the Hecata. But, Ms. Duncern, I feel that if you at least were to acknowledge that I exist and tell the clan to leave me alone, then maybe maybe whatever feud Estelle is currently trying to carry out against your family, maybe I'll wash my hands of it willingly.
Mr. Giovanni, if you want to be left alone by your clan, I would not have advised that you get involved in the business of ghouling a man without his consent or understanding.
Right, even under the auspices of another. Okay. And Estelle? She's the one who's got the personal grudge. I just, wanted to stick it to the clan for denying me what I worked for. Condemning me to this state. We seem to have reached some common ground, he says, his demeanor suddenly shifting, and he says,
Is that what this is?
You think it's not? We're both being played by Estelle, aren't we?
Well, it doesn't seem that way to me.
Well, I've told you where you can meet her. And I will say, she wanted you and you alone, Ms. Duncern. No spares, she said. And she wanted to... What were the words she used? Wanted to make sure that you were capable of what she had planned. So, like your friend, like your very creepy friend said, if I was going to erase some vampires, I would send them to an old warehouse that hasn't been touched in God knows how long, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, away from any possible allies that could come to your aid.
She's, Is this Estelle not particularly bright, or...?
I thought this was normal behavior for kindred, but she does have a lot of enemies. I thought that's just how the Nosferatu do things, you know.
No, actually, her clan is actually rather known for being quite more clever than that.
Well, I got the impression that whatever this is, it's personal. Again, she mentioned that her touchstone had been involved. Something to do with Pentex, something to do with a boon that she requested of the Hecata that they did not fulfill. And I guess, well, you may be dead, we may be dead, but sometimes emotion gets the better of us. You have this thing called the Beast. And I imagine it's even worse for you.
Rather familiar with the Beast. Mr. Giovanni, stipulations of your esteemed compatriot aside, would you accompany us to the rendezvous point?
Thinks for a moment. If I do, you'll leave me alone? I'm sure you've dropped my name.
Oh, sweetheart, sorry, I do apologize. I seem to have given you the impression that that was a request.
He hangs his head. Well, I do have no choice. After all, if you were to use force, I have no means of resistance. Very well, I'll come along with you, and maybe seeing me there, Estelle will, she'll, act a bit more reasonable, but please, if I may make a request, Ms. Duncern, I'm sure that you've mentioned my name to your clan. I know you've been trying to meet with me for the last month, maybe more, and I've put a lot on the table. I've sold out Estelle, my one and only friend, and now I'm going to be directly in the firing line of whatever trap she's got prepared. So I would ask, please, they don't have to let me into the clan, but just acknowledge that I was an asset, that I worked hard, and I deserve some recognition.
Do you think that is remotely like thin bloods? Okay, I'll speak to my superior.
Suppose that's better than nothing, he says. Well, you've got the address. I suppose I'll not be spending the rest of tonight in this office, so he climbs up out of his desk chair. He makes his way over to the light switch, and as he does, you see him glance out the window, out into the courtyard, as if he's hoping that maybe Estelle might be there to save him from what he's gotten himself into, but she's not. He sighs and flicks the light switch, and the office is cast in darkness. And as you step out of the office into the corridor outside, Marion, I would like you to go ahead and roll for me Occult plus Oblivion. You may also add Composure, if you like.
Lovely. Two successes.
Soon as you step over the threshold out into the corridor, you're buffeted by by sensation. You're traveling faster than anything living could ever traveling at the speed of light, following the trajectory of a single moth as it flitters through the city streets. You've long ago actually bypassed the moth itself. Instead, you seem to be following its intent. An incandescent, barely visible trail like a witch light winding through the city streets, leading you along the trajectory that the moth would take. Within seconds, you've arrived at your destination. The old import-export warehouse in the midst of the industrial district. A couple blocks off Dulles Road, right there in the rundown, rustic, decaying suburb of Norman. A single warehouse on the centre of a block of cracked, decaying concrete. And lying in wait around it, 12 men, 13, 14, maybe more. All of them dressed in leather vests, stakes in their belts, waiting for the bloodsuckers to arrive. The moth's trail leads into the warehouse itself, and you follow it disembodied through a partially open window where it rejoins the swarm. Hundreds of moths, thousands of them, a living cloud. And the journey comes to an end, and then whoosh! You're back in the here and now, standing in the corridor with the others. You hear your wraith companion mutter something in your mind's eye, another phrase of incomprehensible Latin, perhaps once again bemoaning the menial task you've just had him carry out, and then he's gone.
Oh, Atticus, before you go, I think you'll enjoy the next task.
He lingers just long enough. That feeling of resentment is still there. That anger at having to carry out your menial, meaningless work. But there's something in your voice, something that hints at something more, and he waits, and there's a hint of eagerness And what do you order him to do?
Oh, he'll have to wait for orders.
And so he does. He grumbles. And then recedes, lingering just on the periphery of your perception. Just so that you can be aware that he's there, waiting. The others notice Marion seemingly coming to her, eyes glazed over, regaining focus, and her body sort of jumping as she slides back into the physical realm.
And as she rejoins the coterie, she's fact. Obviously, there's going to be people where we're going. It looks like at least a dozen, probably more. I expect most of them are mortal.
Okay, yeah, it's not bodyguards. That's a hit squad, is what that is.
Indeed.
No spares, she says Dr. Giovanni.
Yeah, if she wants you coming alone, then you ain't leaving there, is what that's gonna be.
Oh, I'm not going alone.
Right. You sure as shit ain't. That's But it does mean she doesn't want to talk in good faith, is what that tells me. So how you want us to play this, Marion?
I just want to point out that we don't have to do this by her terms. We know her
we
name,
absolutely
you know
do
her
not,
connections. We don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, we won't be.
No, she's a Nosferatu at least, and you know that clan, for the most part, is fairly tight-knit. You could contact any other Nosferatu, Pussy Magnet Murphy, maybe even Baron Archibald, and they'd probably at least have heard of her and have some inkling.
I was about to say I got Pussy Magnet's number on here somewheres. So maybe we could call him up. See what our
Let's
deal
discuss
is.
this
if you
in my
want.
car.
Yeah.
It's a short walk back through the maze of corridors, and when you emerge once again in the hospital reception, you find it as packed and noisy as before. But there's a sense of relief. You don't have to wait here any longer as you push the doors open, step out into the cold night air, and a few minutes later, you're in the car. Bouncer and Tig in the ute, of course, about a car's length behind, the dogs barking loudly. The rest of you in Marion's Mercedes as it glides through the streets.
Wolf's taking his own car. He's got supplies.
Wolf, yep. Wolf in his car.
No, I will say then that she would have called him into the car to at least speak.
Before you leave. Yeah. Before you left, you discussed the plan. And what was it you discussed?
By now you'll be at least vaguely familiar with my incorporeal friend. Well, he is what you call a spectre. And
Wait, you mean to say there's something sentient
hush now,
and
hush now. The grown-ups are talking. Are any of you familiar with the capabilities of your average wraith?
Can't say no.
Cross didn't fill you in. Wolf, you know anything?
No. I can't say I've had the pleasure of seeing one.
Well, a wraith is the kind of servant that a member of my clan may summon from time to time. They have fairly limited capacity. A spectre is generally much older and a lot angrier. Atticus is he's a feisty one.
feisty. 300 men across the Alps to meet Hannibal! His voice booms in your mind.
She communicates the equivalent of a wink to him.
There's some more grumbling. The air around you sort of rumbles with his anger, but then he falls silent.
In addition to being feisty, he is also fiercely telekinetic and capable of possessing mortals.
You want to turn them loose on the It Squad, is what I'm hearing.
I don't think that she really accounted for a member of my clan.
Yeah, she's prepared for me tricks. I'll tell you that. I can't do nothing with moths. Or bugs for that matter. So I don't know if I want to get into calling up animals to hurt her, because there's a chance it could go sideways. That
Indeed.
said, if you want me to try and counter what she's got, okay.
I will also
That's what
point
I'm
out that Bouncer recently purchased a lore sheet that essentially allows her to just call up a carload of guys.
Please tell me the title for that is Rolling Deep.
I
Please
forget
tell me.
what it's called, but it's
What's that from?
Rebel Cells from the what is it? It's like the Theo something lore
the
sheet.
Theo Bell lore sheet in the core book.
It's the 1.1.
Yeah, you basically it's a 1-dot lore sheet, but you basically get the equivalent of 3 dots of allies that roll up in a car once per story.
Does she communicate this?
Yeah, she probably would. I can call up some people to even the odds.
Oh, would you?
Alright. So, between the ghost and the goons, that'll probably pay to her goons. So the question is, how do we keep her from scuppering off or sneaking up with a big Bugs Bunny hammer? Can anyone see unseen things?
I'm afraid not.
At this,
Of course, I can simply get Atticus to scout before he starts doing anything obvious.
That's a no.
But he can be detected.
Dr. Giovanni just sort of raises his hand and he says, Auspex, you call it?
Correct?
Well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree with me, as they say.
You may come in handy yet.
Alright. Your job is to shout if you see her.
As far as I'm aware, she's waiting in the warehouse, but... Oh, I get it, he says. You want me to let you know if I see her sneaking out, and, with the ghost and the goons, and she might try to scarp her, and you want to make sure she doesn't.
Very much.
Indeed. Mr. Giovanni, I think you've just found yourself upgraded from collateral to asset.
Well, that's an honor, he says. Maybe I should have just stuck with med school. Well, I hope your planning is, able to stand up to scrutiny, because, I don't want to face Estelle when she's angry. He sighs and then clambers into the back seat of the Mercedes.
Okay. Shall we rendezvous a little short of the destination?
Sounds like a plan. I'll tell me
Question.
dogs to run quiet.
Yeah, run quiet. The dogs being quiet means they're not going. Roo! It means they're like going. Roo! Roo!
That's fine.
So I have a question. How are you all for hunger? Does anyone feel the need to go hunting before you confront Estelle?
No.
I'm fine here.
2, some okay.
I suppose Bouncer, frenzying or having a messy crit doesn't really matter when you're going with the intention of roughing someone up, does it? And so,
No.
yeah, go.
Unless there's, somebody around who, like one of us, but no, who gets, roughed up. Never mind, it's all good.
And so, you're on your way. 3 vehicles, a ute with dogs that only bark at every second intersection rather than every intersection. An upscale Mercedes. And what does Wolf drive?
Wolf drives a black BMW.
I presume the boot's full of, like, cable ties and plastic bags.
He actually has a mythic merit called Check the Trunk.
Yes.
Always have tools and resources available with him.
He's
So
got a
anything
bag.
he could possibly have normally
anything he
prepared
could
for an
possibly
emergency.
need. He's just got a big bag in the trunk. It's a big, bulgy bag. It looks like it's carrying, like, twice its capacity. And if you ever asked Wolf what was in it, he would just say, "It's got what I need."
Oh, he gives most of it like in the lining of the boot and like in the spare wheel well and things like that. So you open the boot, it's plenty of space. You wouldn't even think it's there. But if you know where to look, everything is there. Everything is there.
As you drive, Bouncer whips out her phone, and as Tig focuses on the road ahead, she swipes through her contacts, and she places her finger on one that's just conspicuously labelled as backup. And Bouncer, what orders do you give your car full of goons? The boys.
Fucking clown car.
Yeah. Sorry, just let me talk. Just like, probably just sends them the address with just like the message of, "Be ready, we've got work to do."
Yeah. They send back a text message. Does that mean roll up on them as soon as we get there and start causing trouble? Winky face.
Yeah, it's just someone back and wait for my signal.
Got it.
Call.
Smiley face. And then an hour passes and you're there. The Cam territory, the glitz and glamour of downtown, the sleepy silence of the suburbs melt away and are replaced by the blight on the edge of Cowie's Bay. Seemingly endless expanse of worn down factories, refineries, warehouses. Some of them optimistically refurbished into studio apartments, but this part of town, North Gateway, everywhere you go, whether it's Homestead Park, Port Shore, Norman, there's a sense of ever-present sadness. You can feel the desperation, the day-to-day struggle of the people who live here. You turn off Dulles Road and find yourself approaching the destination. You park your cars about a block away from the address itself, and you approach on foot. Tig, do you bring your dogs along with you?
I'll bring one.
The two you don't pick hang their heads and whimper, but the
Oh,
one
don't be looking
lucky
like
dog
that.
wags his tail at propeller speed, leaps from the back of the truck, and follows you, panting eagerly for treats, walkies, fun. And then,
Come on in, Beaselbutt. We got business to settle.
and then you're approaching the address itself. The vast concrete lot, covered in crisscrossing cracks, patches of overgrown foliage, rusted shipping containers, the husks of old dead cars. And you can see them standing about building or two's length away. You can see the hunters. They've split up into groups of 4 or 5, taking turns patrolling the perimeter of the lot while more wait hidden in the shadows of the warehouse itself. And Bouncer, you catch a flicker of movement out of the corner of your eye, whirl around and see a single blue van parked between the chain link fence that runs around the perimeter of the lot and a run-down block of apartments, signaling you with its headlights. Your rebel cell, the mortal retainers and ghouls that are on hand for when the anarchs need to get down and dirty and step on people's toes, are here. And they're waiting for your signal. So.
Oh, we're ready when you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Atticus?
You feel the air around you grow thicker, staler, as Atticus makes his presence known. What orders do you give him?
Those people that you saw when you followed them off, thank you for that, by the way. Well, I'm sure you deduced their affiliation. I would like you to deal with them, but first I would like you to just get the lay of the land.
Quia Romam, says the voice in your mind's eye. And being a spectre, he's not bound by the laws of physics. The rest of the coterie starts to settle in for a wait of at least a few minutes, but Atticus circles the entire lot and returns to you within seconds. You see through his eyes as he bombards you with his vision, with his sensation. 14 hunters altogether. 4 of them waiting in the vicinity of the warehouse itself, armed with purloined stake launchers. The other 10 split into 2 groups of 5, patrolling the perimeter. Their goal, to herd you into the warehouse itself where the others can make their move.
And
He's not impressed with their tactics, I will add.
Marion sends him an image of a little wry smile. And then she says, "Do as you will."
He pauses just long enough to ask if you have a specific preference for how you would like what he terms decimation to unfold.
Ideally, with no one being able to spread word of this. Anything else is fine.
Barbaros Destroyer. He whispers in your ear, and then you feel the air around you unravel as he's gone. And within seconds, you hear a loud metallic crash as one of the burnt out car husks is hoisted off the ground by an unseen force and hurled into one of the patrolling cells like a great spectral bowling ball drawn to the pins. The men scream and scatter as the car hits them, and then peals of gunfire begin to ring out from the lot itself as the remaining hunters draw their weapons and rush into the fray, fighting something they can't quite see. A dumpster lid is flung at one of them, knocking him off his feet, and then there's a loud scream as one of them raises his shotgun, points it at his own head, and pulls the trigger, turning himself into a flower before your very eyes. Bouncer's phone vibrates. Is this the signal?
Move in. And, watch out, darling. I think they might be a little unpredictable.
The doors of the blue van are flung open, and 6 mean son of a bitches, each of them looking like your stereotypical biker, built like as they say, a brick shithouse, wielding a chain in one hand and a cricket bat in the other, emerges. They take one look across the street at where Bouncer stands, silently nod in an acknowledgement of camaraderie, and then they charge, screaming their battle cry, "For the Anna!" And the hunters are well and truly overwhelmed. The lot becomes a cacophony of gunfire, screams, clanging and scraping metal, and your beast rumbles within the pit of your stomach as the smell of freshly spilled blood begins to decorate the night. Well, that was well done, Miss Dunsert, says Dr. Giovanni, and you too, Miss Philippa. I presume 5 guys with chains and cricket bats is definitely not going to help when they're trying to fend off flying cars. Estella waits within the warehouse. She did not make an attempt to escape. Instead, he narrows his eyes. She's decided to hold the line. She sequestered herself at the very back, beyond a nest of shipping containers and crates, and her swarm is ready. She seems to think you want to fight, and I've got the feeling she wants to give you one.
Well,
Okay then.
Hang
And,
back, so I don't get He catches the look on your face. No, I'll come along.
Marion withdraws a rather large caliber handgun from her box and slides it into the breast pocket of her business suit.
Wolf obfuscates and activates Silence of Death as well.
Yeah.
And just remarks as he kind of fades out, "I'll be watching."
Yeah. Go ahead, make a rouse check for me, Wolf.
He gets hungrier. There you go.
Hungrier. So, I will not ask you to roll stealth or obfuscate. There is no way these hunters are going to detect you while they're fighting off the Wraith and the Anarch goons, but... And Estelle herself doesn't have sense the unseen, so you're free to sort of approach the warehouse at your own leisure. You linger behind the others as Tig steps forwards and wrenches the gate open, and the coterie begins to just briskly stride across the concrete towards the warehouse itself as the night is lit up with gunfire and screams, and as you get hungry, as you obfuscate Wolf, you feel your beast begin to stir. You could just take one, grab one, pull him away. The others wouldn't notice. So,
The thought makes him feel sick, so he busies himself with his work.
yeah. So what is Wolf gonna do? Just hang back and be prepared to... Go ahead, you describe for me.
No, Wolf is going to break ahead of the pack and go searching through the rear of the warehouse to locate Estelle.
Yeah, Estelle herself. So as the others begin to cross through the ensuing chaos, as Tig has to grab Bouncer and pull her down as another burnt-out car husk is flung over their heads, whooshing overhead and coming to rest in the middle of the yard where it knocks two hunters off their feet with a loud scream. I would like Wolf to go ahead and make for me a composure or intelligence plus investigation roll.
3 successes. And once he's done finding where Estelle is, he's going to circle back around to the fight.
Yeah. You run ahead of the others. Sticking to the perimeter of the warehouse itself, you quickly do a lap around it, stopping and peering through any of the cracked, grimy windows. And around the back, you find an old loading dock. The roller shutter is up about 5 or 6 centimeters. It's not quite touching the ground, and so you kneel down and press your face into the crack and peer into the darkness beyond. And you do not see Estelle herself. It's clear to you that she's obfuscated. She's lying in ambush. But for a moment, you think the darkness itself is moving. Much in the same way as when Sam has compelled the shadows to act according to her will, to fight for her, to become corporeal. But you realize it's not that at all. The inside of the warehouse is thick with moth. Never mind hundreds, never mind thousands. There's possibly millions of them. The darkness is alive, and the swarm obscures the vision of anyone trying to locate Estelle. You do notice...
me going in first?
Hang on. You do notice, however, Wolf, that it takes a few moments to clue onto this, because the as far as you can see, the swarm is everywhere. It's just a living mass of insects acting like a cloud of darkness. But they seem to be concentrated on one spot in particular, and that is around a shipping container off in the corner directly opposite the loading door that you're peering through. The container is a faded green colour, and it's got the faded logo for a company called Foxbury's on the side. This is where the swarm appears to be at its thickest, and that, you determine, is where Estelle lies in wait.
Yeah, with this in mind, he's going to circle back to where the fighting is. If he leaves them unattended for too long, there will be a bigger mess.
Yeah. Return to the others and tell them that you've roughly got an idea of where Estelle is, that there's a green container with the Wolfbreeze logo on the side. That's where the swarm is the thickest, and that must be where she is. And now, Tig, you can go ahead and ask.
Absolutely. Tig nods and says, "You want me going in first? Draw the attack? I'm pretty tough. I can take a hit while you guys get the work done."
Has Marion seen the moths?
You haven't seen them... Well, you saw them through Atticus's eyes during the vision, but you've not seen them yourself. But when Wolf tells you that there is enough of them, that they are essentially a living blanket of darkness, you believe it.
I'd rather we not rush into this one. You're very tough, Tig, but I don't know if you can so easily deal with such a problem. Does anyone have any ideas how to thin the herd?
Well, there's 2/3 that need thinning. I don't think Estelle's going anywhere. She's waiting for us. We should deal with their goons, ensure we mop up correctly, and then proceed.
You know, if we pulled a burn barrel over and got some smoke going, moths don't exactly do well with smoke.
That could work.
Yeah. This was less dangerous than what I was thinking.
Me
What were you
too.
thinking?
No,
No, what were
I
you
was-
thinking?
Oh, similar vein. I was wondering if there are any gas lines still connected to the building. Like, Estelle doesn't have to breathe, but the moths still will.
Well, we
Yeah.
Yeah, but one spark and
Yeah.
A blood-curdling scream rings out from somewhere in the distance. Ah! And then there's the sound of something heavy smashing against flesh, and someone shouts, "Take that, you cammy fuck!"
Or we could try and find some insecticide or something that's poison.
This
I
one
mean,
Are you
is.
not paying attention? This comes next.
I
I'll just spitball.
frankly, well, I think the situation's rather sorted.
Yeah. As if to accentuate this, you hear a voice ring out, "Oi, bloodsuckers, over there!" And you see a hunter standing about 10 meters away from you, stepping out from behind a shipping container. He brandishes his stake in one hand, and with the other hand raises a sawn-off shotgun, raises it to his face and squints as he looks down the sights, and then suddenly, thwack! A cricket bat collides with the back of his skull, and he gasps as he falls forwards.
Do you forget why I'm here? This is why I'm here. Because you keep doing this sort of thing.
Okay, then, what do you suggest?
Cleaning up.
Go
Oh.
on.
Wolf struts over to his car, pops open the boot, and throws across the cardboard lining coated with fabric that reveals a wheel well full of everything.
Full of everything.
Full of everything.
Thing you could ever possibly
He beckons you over and hands rubber gloves, spray and wipe, towels, bags, body bags, all sorts of things.
Are we not getting ahead of
Small-
ourselves?
What, do you want to just leave them here?
No,
With
they'll be
gunshots.
fighting for a little bit longer. And I don't think
winding.
we can make this any more expedient.
seems to be winding down a little bit. There's the gunfire was, a couple rounds per 10 seconds. It's bang, 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 bang. Whereas now it's like the occasional little half-hearted bang and a scream and a crash.
I know we're not exactly in suburbia right now, but gunshots draw attention, and the police will be
They
here
do.
at some point.
Right,
We
which
don't
is
have a
why-
lot of time to actually finish this up, so please listen to my advice. Clean up now, deal with Estelle, get out.
Do you want us to clean while they're still fighting?
By the time we get there, they should be done.
Okay, then.
Bouncer! Comes a cry as 5 cue balls. Their bats and chains dripping blood on the concrete cheer, and they nod curtly at you as they step off the lot and file once again back into the little alleyway where their blue van waits. There's a single hunter left. He's standing on his own in the middle of the lot. He's holding a revolver in his hand, shakingly, as he whirls around, facing you, facing the cue balls, and then it's like the earth itself roars, and he opens his mouth and screams in excruciating pain as unseen hands grab the insides of his lips and pull them outwards, seemingly peeling his jaw right off his body. His
Fuck me, run it.
His lifeless corpse falls to the ground, and the last sounds of battle cease.
Okay then, point taken.
Look, you don't have to be extremely thorough. Just do what needs to be done. Big pools of blood wiped up. Bits of gore in bags. Bodies in body bags. Basic stuff. Get it done in a minute or two.
Are we to assume that our target will not have moved?
She won't move.
She's not going anywhere. She's waiting for us.
She won't move, says
Yep.
Dr. Giovanni. If you've dealt with all her goons, she knows.
Well,
She's got to fight you on her terms, or else there ain't going to be any fighting at all.
At this
Okay, let's
point-
get to work.
if we
At
got
this
time
point-
to lean, we got time to clean. Let's clean.
Yeah, at this point, Wolf will show his proficiency with such things. As you watch him start to work, every time people blink, more seems to have been done than they thought. And within about a minute, everything is clean.
Yeah, there's...
Wolf has rush job.
Yeah, like Bouncer, Tig, Marion, you're all like, it's taking you the better part of 5 minutes to insert a body into a body bag and pull the zip up. And by the time you finally pull the zip up, you look over your shoulder and Wolf's already got 4 of them in a stack. The concrete is, well, was never clean to begin with, but the blood is gone. It's been wiped up. The shell casings that have been scattered around the lot have been bundled up into a plastic bag that's resting against the stack of bodies.
So, can I multitask while this is going on?
Yeah.
Tig would like to activate Feral Whispers, call some rats, and see where the nearest asbestos dump is.
Best stump. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Rouse Feral Whispers and roll. And while you're doing that, I'll just point out that Tig's the slowest at cleaning out of everyone. Tig doesn't even get to the point where he has the body in the bag and he's pulling the zip up because, well, Beelzebub is barking, panting loudly, wagging his tail as he darts back and forth, just licking up dregs of blood off the concrete.
So, after willpower has 4 successes.
4 successes. Takes longer than you would think. A place like this must be swarming in rodents, but
Actually, not asbestos. Asbestos wouldn't burn. Something poisonous that they avoid.
something is scared the rats away. It takes a fair few moments before finally you see 2 little eyes gleaming in the darkness and a single lone, unusually large and hairy rat makes its presence known. It lingers just long enough to tell you that rats don't come here because that's where they live. And then it tells you about a rusty blue shipping container half buried in a trench behind the lot itself that contains old sheets of decommissioned asbestos. We don't go near there either, says the rats. Sick to anything that goes there. Pestilence, plague.
Alright. Well, we can't burn it, but we can pretty much get it in the air, and that might work on them. I don't know. Don't know how moths breathe.
Mhm.
Want to help
Mean-
me grab a few sheets, Bouncer?
It won't burn, but, you know, if you burn it, you would probably... Whatever you're sending into the air would not be healthy, I would imagine.
By definition, asbestos doesn't burn.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
burn.
Which is
It's
why
a-
I
it's
switched
a-
it midway through from asbestos
Yeah.
to some
I'm
kind
not
of
sure it
chemical.
would damage moths either. It's
Yeah.
it's
Turpentine
Yeah, it just
would probably do
hurts
it.
your
Turpentine,
lungs after
burning
30 years.
turpentine.
Well, let's say...
Yeah, turpentine would work.
As
Yeah.
Tig approaches the shipping container and wrenches the doors open, You see about 10 to 15 sheets of asbestos all stacked, tied together with a thick cable tie. They're wrapped in a plastic covering with a symbol stamped on them, the biohazard symbol, and a warning to not approach, decommissioned. And you're wondering exactly how you're going to put these to use to stop the moths when suddenly Beelzebub barks, wags his tail, and rushes into the shipping container itself to a big white bucket pressed off in the back, hidden behind the sheets of asbestos. Thinking gets a bucket of treats. Turns out it is treats, not the kind Beelzebub is looking for, but treats for you nonetheless, as Tig grabs the handle of the bucket and dislodges it from the gap and finds a big bucket of turpentine that was used in the decommissioning process.
There we go. We put the asbestos around it, make sure it doesn't catch the floor enough and on fire. Yeah, it was my plan all along, says Tig. I totally didn't forget that asbestos don't burn.
Roof! Beelzebub barks as if to give Tig his vote of confidence.
All right. This should help us get through the molds.
So, you're going to burn turpentine. You're going to use the asbestos to prevent the fire from getting out of control, but the beast doesn't understand how asbestos works. The beast sees flames, and it sees flames. It sees fire, death, danger. So I hope you're prepared for some frenzy checks, whether or not the fire is actually capable of spreading out of control.
Yeah.
But Marion, this is your show after all. Estelle's here to meet with you. Are you quite happy to let Tig burn turpentine to choke out those moths and use asbestos as a means of controlling the flame?
So while this is going on, Wolf's just going to be filling the brute with bodies and all the things to be destroyed.
That makes sense, yeah. So little crystals. Yeah. When you return to the lot proper, you'd be forgiven for thinking there was never a fight at all. Yeah, there are some car wrecks that are in a different location. There's some dumpster lids, some stray pieces of corrugated iron, and bits of fabric here and there flapping on the chain link fence or on bits of wire, but the shell casings are gone, the blood is gone, and the bodies... Where'd all the bodies go? Says Dr. Giovanni.
They will be disposed of.
All of them? All of them? In
All
your
of
car?
Look, there's a reason why I'm here, and I appreciate everyone's assistance.
Hell, I'm glad I came with you. Looks like Estelle is on the wrong side, he
Are you
says.
playing corpse Tetris in the back of the car?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is
Buddy,
Marion's
but-
call.
Yeah, no offense, buddy, but if I had the word, you'd be in one of these two.
He stammers, shudders, then he turns to Tig and he says, So, well, what's the go? We burn
Why are you
that?
looking at me? No, I was thinking, and depends on how Marion wants to handle it. I was thinking that if we want to go in there and have a talk with her and she sets the moths on us, we set the turpentine off and make huge billowing clouds of smoke to kill moths or drive them off.
It's me.
Why don't we just walk in there with the flaming turpentine and all the moths would just disperse?
We could do that too.
Yeah,
How do you
at this-
handle the fire?
Wolf brings out his lighter, holds it up to the group, and clicks it.
Yeah. Got this.
No. To illustrate, to even to mark
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that they don't like fire.
Yeah.
So we all roll on that, or just...
I'll say yeah. All of you go ahead and roll composure. You're not going to frenzy from this, but
Just composure? Resolve?
just composure, because you're not going to frenzy.
1 success for Marion.
1 success.
Yeah, just one from Wolf as well.
And bouncer.
Two successes.
So nobody frenzies, but as Wolf clicks the switch on the lighter and the little flame
Jesus,
appears, yeah, everyone sort of shies away. Tig opens his mouth and a bestial hiss comes out, and Bouncer holds up her hands, cowering away. Only lasts for a second until Wolf, seemingly exhibiting great personal willpower to be able to actually move his thumb off the wheel and douse the flame. And then you're all back to normal, but it's enough to demonstrate to Dr. Giovanni. Wow, he says, I didn't realize that full-blooded kindred. All right. Perhaps we save that as a last resort.
I would recommend it.
I concur, Mr. Wolf, as much as you'd like to have me in your car.
Oh, it's not about like, it's about necessity.
Whatever happens tonight, between you and I, never will I speak a word. In fact, in response to Wolf's observation, that it would merely be, good practice to have the thin blood meet the same fate as the others. He rushes ahead eagerly and he says, well, Estelle knows my voice, so why don't I step through the door first? I'll call out for her, and maybe that will confuse her just long enough that you can get in there, you can get to where she is, and do what you need to do. I can be useful. I can be useful too, see?
Wolf doesn't really pay much attention to any of this.
Miss Dunson, he says, Marion's approval seeming to be his very last port of call.
Okay.
Right. His demeanor shifts. He beams at you with a smile, and then he steps across the crumbling concrete, moves up to the thick, rust-flecked metal door that serves as the staff entrance for the warehouse, and flings it open. Immediately, a cloud of moths emerges, flying around his face, buffeting him. He bats with his hands, dispersing them, and you watch as their little sparkly wings disperse into the night sky. And then he looks over his shoulder, gives you all one last look, and steps into the living darkness. And you hear him call out, Estelle? Estelle, it's me! Mark, Miss Duncern, I think no, Estelle, I did it. Help! And then you hear a loud thump emanate from somewhere beyond the threshold, and he is silent.
Saw that coming.
Wolf goes and grabs another body bag and sticks it in the lining of his jacket.
Ready, just in case. Yeah. So who's first across? The door is now open, and with the moonlight, you could see the moths. They seem to occupy every portion of space within the warehouse. Like, even if you knew what you were looking for, even if you were prepared, you would still be stepping into a solid wall of insects, and it is impossible to see anything beyond the hundreds of thousands of little flittering wings.
Well. Am I next then?
If you wouldn't mind.
Depends if you want to go
Alright.
in one by one.
Oh,
Oh.
I figure I'll be leading the way, but there'll be people coming in behind me, yeah?
Oh, well.
Yeah,
Alright.
just give me a moment. Are there any of the destroyed cars nearby?
Yeah, there's one about, let's say, a meter away from you. Its doors, like, hanging off at an odd angle. Still attached to the body by a single tiny piece of wire.
Yeah, Bouncer's just gonna head over, pull the door off of whatever remaining wires are, and basically just gonna hold the door, sort of like a makeshift riot shield.
Alright.
Alright.
Good idea. Alright. Tig will pick up the turpentine and a sheet of asbestos. Not at Wolf. Activate toughness and lead the way, with Bouncer and the others following.
Yeah, go ahead, Rouse, to activate toughness.
I still don't get hungry. Good lord. I haven't failed once on a rouse check in the last 2 games. This is weird.
Yeah, Wolf disappears into the darkness as well.
Yeah, to wait until he's needed. Beelzebub matches pace with you, Tig, his tongue flapping. Are you gonna have him bravely follow you in?
I think I will.
He gives you the biggest, most affectionate howl. His tail wags even faster as he slides himself in between Tig and Bouncer, and the three of you cross over the threshold. So, the bad news is that Tig, Bouncer, the first thing you see as soon as you step over the threshold is about 10 meters from the door, only visible beyond the living cloud of insects, only visible because of how bright red and fresh his blood is Dr. Mark Giovanni, lying spread-eagled between 2 stacks of wooden crates. You have no idea where his head is.
Uh-uh.
The good news is that because he entered and called out to her, Estella's no longer lying in wait for an ambush, and so, Tig and Bouncer, I will allow you both to make wits awareness checks. Tig, you do not get a penalty on yours because you have your dog with you, and he starts barking immediately, signaling to you that there's a threat. But Bouncer, you get 1 penalty die because of the fact that you are being absolutely swarmed by these moths. They're ramming their bodies into your face, trying to dig themselves into your eye sockets. It doesn't hurt, but it makes trying to see incredibly difficult.
Don't suppose Eyes of the Beast does anything for me here.
Well, no, not
It's more
because of the
darkness.
moths.
Nah,
Yeah. Because
moths.
this isn't darkness, this is insects.
This is bugs. Yeah. 3 successes.
Only 1 success for Bouncer.
1 success for Bouncer. So, Tig, you see her when Bouncer doesn't. Bouncer has the riot shield, the car door held in front of her, and she's sort of like just holding it up, using it to try to beat the moths out of the way. but you hear Beelzebub growl, hear him bark, and then you look up and you see, taking a soaring leap from one of the metal rafters that hangs across the roof above, Estelle. I'm going to put a picture of her in Owlbear Rodeo. She certainly looks the part. Her face illuminated by the ambient moonlight leaking in through a broken skylight.
Oh, she looks cool.
Dressed entirely in black, a long, flowing black leather jacket, figure-hugging black jeans. You could be forgiven for thinking she's just a regular goth girl, but then you see her face, the way her chin twists to almost a triangular knife-shaped point, the way her ears extend outwards like demonic elf ears, the way her eyes narrow and gleam in the darkness like the eyes of a bird of prey. She takes a soaring leap off the rafter and holds out both of her fists. Long claws extend, cutting through her skin as she sails down towards you and rouses her blood, not getting hungrier, as she activates her crash down. So I would like Bouncer and Tig to both make dexterity plus athletics checks. Bouncer, you get a bonus dice because you have a shield.
Oh.
Now is a good time to boost dexterity. I still don't get hungrier. Okay. This is great. That's 3 successes.
3 successes. And Bouncer?
2.
2. Ooh. Estelle rolls a critical 7 as she barrels down from the rafter. The moths disperse to let her through, and for a brief moment, your vision is clear. You can see what lies ahead as the moths seem to instinctually flee from this wrath bearing down upon them. She crashes down onto the concrete and slams her fist into it. The entire warehouse seems to groan as the ground shakes beneath your feet and shards of concrete are violently expelled, pelting your bodies. And Tig, you take 4 points of superficial damage, while Bouncer, you take 5.
Okay, toughness kicks in, and I take 2.
No spares! Estelle hisses. Marion Duncern! Pledge your allegiance now, or your coterie dies! I know you're out there!
Marion raises her voice. She doesn't yell. What, pray tell, are you talking about?
You help me, Estelle says as she rises from the kneeling position and stands in the middle of the warehouse, in the middle of this crater she's made in the concrete. She snarls, revealing her teeth, and peers past Tig and Bouncer to where she knows Marion must be standing, and she says, "Make right the wrongs of your clan. Promise you will do it now, or I will destroy the spares and force you."
And what wrongs would those be?
You know! Don't tell me you don't know, she says. She clenches her fist and locking eye, finally catching sight of Marion beyond the door. Not seeing Wolf as he's hidden away, she kneels down bending her legs, preparing to pounce. What do you do, Marion?
I was thinking I was calling through while not being visible, but
Oh, well, like, you're not obfuscated, and...
Oh, I just meant...
now...
I thought I was around behind the door or something. That's fine.
Yeah, sure, yeah, no, you're behind the door, but she can hear your voice, and she's looks like she's about to come charging out the door to just grab you and pull you in with where Tig and Bouncer are.
Okay. Look, she's just gonna walk in, hands raised. She's not a threat to her.
Alright. You gonna drop your gun?
No, God, no. That's still in my breast pocket.
Yep. Alright, Marion holds her hands and steps out from behind the door and begins to approach the darkness beyond. And Wolf, you, obfuscated, see her about to be swallowed up in the darkness. It seems fairly obvious to you, Wolf, that Estelle isn't fucking around. She's managed to knock Tig and Bouncer off their feet, and you, for one, aren't certain as to whether she will allow Marion to enter safely.
So, what Wolf is going to do is, while this plays out, get to an advantageous position behind Estelle, and the minute she starts monologuing again, dagger straight through her heart, through the back.
And I presume you're going to employ your blink to help you do that.
It depends. It depends on what the situation is. If it looks like it's necessary, then yes. But if she's just distracted monologuing, then it might not be necessary.
What other celerity powers do you have?
Rapid reflexes, rush, job, and blink.
Ooh, yeah. All right. So, to get into position, I will ask you to make a dex stealth check, and I will allow you to add your rapid reflex. Because of your rapid reflexes, I will allow you to add half your celerity to that dice pool.
Cool. So that's dex
stealth plus half your celerity, and you are obfuscated as well, I believe. Which is why I'm letting you roll for stealth at all instead of just having her see you.
Yeah, that's 6 successes.
6 successes. Seeing Marion step into the doorway, you call upon your blood. It begins to pump through your body, and then you set off at a sprint across the yard. You see a window open just short of the warehouse ceiling, and with a single motion, scramble up the sagging water pipe next to the window, flinging yourself through it, and coming to a silent stop in an aisle in the warehouse. About 10 meters or so behind Estelle. You can see her in the distance. You can see her baring her claws as she steps towards the door, just as Marion steps in, holding your hands up in the air. Estelle looks at you. She beckons for you to step over the threshold. She motions towards Tig and Bouncer. With them!
Right.
The gun! Drop it! And that goes for you! She looks over at Bouncer. That car door! Toss it aside!
Okay, I'm reaching into my breast pocket to retrieve my gun.
I suppose you want me to toss the barrel too, eh? Alright. So Tig is going to silently tell his ghoul dog to get GTFO. Just toss the barrel of turpentine.
So, I'm going to get you to roll your animalism for me. Just your animalism.
Alright. That'll be 2 successes.
Estelle is still, almost statue-like, as she watches Marion's hand slowly move into the breast pocket. She's not paying attention. She doesn't notice when the barrel of turpentine clatters to the ground, and when Beelzebub silently springs forwards, scoops up the barrel's handle in his mouth, and darts away into the darkness.
Just, if we have to activate it, I don't want to breathe in it.
Marion, do you produce the gun?
He slowly brings it out of the jacket. Makes sure that, what was her name?
Estelle.
Estelle sees it. Brings it slowly down. She's just holding it in the air, waiting to see how Estelle responds.
Toss it to me, she says.
Okay. And if I don't?
If you don't, I will stake you and I will take it myself. And you see her left hand finger something in her waist, finger something in her belt on her waist, and you realize she's called it a stake, but to you it looks like a sharpened railway spike.
Okay. I'm certainly not going to toss, but I'm going to put it on the ground and just slide it over to you, okay?
She nods. So, as Marion kneels down, places the gun on the ground, and makes to slide it across the concrete, I will ask Bouncer and Tig and Wolf to make wits awareness checks. 1 die penalty to each, because now that she's leaped off the roof, the moths are starting to coalesce again. She's summoning them around her like a cloak. And they are once
3
again
successes.
obscuring your vision. 3 successes. How many for Bouncer and Wolf?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize it was Wolf as well. What's the roll?
Yeah, wits awareness and 1 die penalty because of all the moths making it hard to see.
2 successes.
2 successes.
Okay, so after a reroll, it's a 1 success instead of a bestial failure.
Okay, Tig and Wolf, you see it. Bouncer does not. As soon as she tossed the car door aside, the moths just swarmed her. And you look over at Bouncer, you can barely even see her face under the maelstrom of little tiny moth bodies. But Wolf and Tig, as Marion kneels down, places the gun on the concrete, you see the heels of Estelle's boots lift off the ground, and it is obvious to you as she wraps her fingers around the railway spike that she means to charge Marion while she's let her guard down.
I assume Marion was watching Estelle this entire time.
That's why you didn't get to roll. That's why you didn't roll, because, you know, you're face to face with her, and I...
Okay. Sorry, I definitely see this.
Yes, you definitely... Well, you see that she's about to move forwards, but it's not obvious to you that she's going to attack you, just that she's making a move towards you. But Wolf and Tig, who are able to actually see her from behind, they can see that she's readying to pounce.
So now would probably be a good time for Wolf to skewer her.
Yeah. So she's about 10 meters away from you, so blink will be necessary. Unless you want to try to make it without.
No, blink's fine. I got plenty of blood left.
Blood. Meanwhile, Tig, what are you doing?
He doesn't know Wolf's doing this, so he's just gonna try and tackle her.
Yeah. All right. So
He's shouting, "Somebody light the turpentine!"
I will ask Tig to go ahead and make me a strength brawl check.
As well, rouse strength as well. She is not playing. Hey, cool. All right. So let me do some quick addition here. 70 on dice, and dice I'm going to bring to this party. Okay.
I will ask.
She's got claws. I'll go ahead and willpower that.
Okay.
So that'll be eight successes.
8 successes. And Bouncer, you're scrambling for the turpentine. So I'll ask Bouncer to go and make a Dex Athletics check. And was that 8, Tig?
That was indeed 8.
Wow.
Thanks to willpower.
Yeah.
Yeah, only 1 success for me.
1 success, alright. And Wolf, I'd like you to go ahead and make me a Dex or Strength plus Brawl check. And you may add your Celerity as bonus dice.
May I use melee instead of brawl?
Yeah, go ahead, use melee. I believe that's what your special
And add what dice, sorry?
And add Celerity as bonus dice. Your full Celerity, because you're using Blink.
Oh my good god, I'm willpowering that. Wow, that's only 4 successes.
4
From
successes?
a 10 and a willpower, that's 4 successes.
Yeah,
She
well,
doesn't
we'll
see it
see. But, and Marion, as your coterie erupt around you into activity, what do you do?
Well, she certainly doesn't slide the gun over.
Yeah. Instead,
I think she just stands up with the gun and just trains it on
trains
Estelle.
Just
She's not going to
trains it
fire
on
because she doesn't want to
Estelle.
hurt any of her friends.
So Estelle's knees bend as she prepares to take another soaring leap, and it's this point that Tig goes first. He opens his mouth, lets out an animalistic roar as he rushes forwards and grabs her, pressing her into the side of one of the shipping containers, slamming his fist into her torso. She gasps in pain and flails with her claws, but Tig's too fast, too strong. He delivers another punch to her gut before she knees him in the groin and breaks his grip. And she rolls a 4, so Tig, you deal 3 points of superficial... well, no, you're not using potence. You deal 2 points of superficial damage to her.
Strike. I'm no spare. I'm a fucking strike.
She snarls, baring her teeth, holds her claws out in front of her, and she's about to rush towards Tig when suddenly, from behind, moving as a blur, whoosh, comes Wolf. And Wolf, what are you attacking her with?
He has a small assortment of blades, but this is a spear tip knife.
Spear tip
It's a
knife.
three-pronged knife.
How? She whispers. How? She snarls as she whirls around, raises her hands to try to fend Wolf off, but because of his blink, he's too fast. He closes the gap between himself and her in the fraction of a second, and she raises her arms to defend, and having a penalty dice from already defending against Tig, and also not being allowed to use her potence for this, she rolls only 1 success. As Wolf is on her, closing the gap, and where do you stick that knife?
Oh, hot.
Yeah, right into the heart. Wolf raises his hand, and in one swift moment, the tri-tipped knife is sticking out of her leather jacket, and her mouth falls open in disbelief. She raises her last remaining hand and beckons for the moths. Spear tip looks like that. Yeah, it's like a rubbery... All you could see Wolf, is the rubbery grip of the handle sticking out of her chest. As she gasps in pain, you deal another 2 points of superficial damage to her, and she stumbles backwards, thrusts out her other hand, and motions for her moths to surround her. "Cloak me! Save me!" she orders, and the moths, immediately moving as one, coalesce around her. Bouncer, you manage to get to the turpentine. After all this has taken place, you scramble down the aisle of the warehouse and you see Beelzebub charging towards you with the turpentine still in his mouth. He barks loudly as you take it from him, unscrew the lid, and I'm going to ask you to make me a composure plus resolve check as you reach for Wolf's lighter.
Yeah, so that's 2 successes.
2 successes. It's only a small fire, only a little flame. That doesn't stop your beast from recoiling, urging you to step away. You feel your grip on the bucket and the lighter beginning to release, almost as if your body is moving of its own accord to take both of these things and toss them away. But you command your beast to be silent. You flick your thumb on the wheel and the flame emerges. It's the brightest thing you've ever seen. It seems to burn into your very soul as you drop it into the barrel and step away, grabbing one of the sheets of asbestos and clamping it over the top to contain the fire. There's a loud guttural roar as the flames consume the turpentine, and a plume of foul, noxious-smelling black smoke immediately fills the air around you. "To me! Cloak me! Save me!" barks Estelle as the moths attach to her skin as one by one they dig their legs into her flesh, seeming to create a suit of armor, each moth individually serving as an individual link in the chain. And she's about to renew her attack. She sneers at Marion, and once again she snarls, "No! Bears!" When the plume of noxious-smelling smoke begins to waft around the area, and within seconds, one by one, the moths begin to drop off her body. Plop! Plunk! Clunk! Until her armor of insects is nothing more than a carpet of dead, blackened butterflies at her feet. Her mouth drops open in shock, her hand still on the handle of Wolf's knife, about to pull it out, Tig ready to launch in and smash her against the wall yet again. And Marion, your gun is trained on her. She locks eyes with you and snarls and says, "Do it then! Finish me!"
Oh, darling, no, no, I won't be killing you tonight.
Then what? It's obvious that your clan wishes me gone. That
Sweetheart,
you spit
honey.
on Toby's memory.
I don't know who you are, darling.
Head, Marion, and make me a charisma persuasion check.
Sure.
Do you want a boost?
Yeah, I think I will.
Yeah.
She gets hungrier.
Hungrier. That's okay.
4 successes.
4 successes. You really don't know? She says,
Not a
and
clue.
all hostility immediately melts from her face. Ah! She glances over at Dr. Giovanni's headless corpse. Her mouth still open, her lips silently stammering, ceasing to find words. And then she lets out a sigh, steps backwards, and slides down the corrugated iron of the shipping container, collapsing into a shaking mess at Tig's feet. But how? Did he really mean so little to them? They couldn't even remember his fucking name!
Maybe you better take this one from the top.
Takes a few moments to compose herself and then pulls herself up into a seating position, resting against the shipping container. She looks over at Marion once more, the look of stunned disbelief still on her face. You really don't know? Have no idea who? You don't know about Toby McGrath?
No, honey, I really don't.
Then I picked a fight with the wrong person. She grits her teeth. I am Estelle. I am the child of Murphy. Once upon a time, I was a name that commanded respect among the Anarchs. And then, Toby McGrath, my touchstone, the only thing I cared about in this fucking world. He worked for Pentex. And he died. It was an accident, they said. They discovered this new mineral. The Infernium, he was part of the group intended to find out how to refine it, and they cast him aside as if he was nothing. But he didn't want to leave. He came back. Marion Dunsern, you know of wraiths, do you not?
Quite well, yes.
And so Toby haunted them. He haunted those bastards, and I wanted him to find peace. I wanted him to let go of his anger, know that I would carry on his torch, that I would get back those Pentex bastards. And so I came to the Hecata. I asked them to purify the site where he died. Help him to find a measure of peace. And they refused. We don't interfere in Anarch and Cam disputes. Can you believe it? They're stupid. They're fucking non-interference policy. Because he was the touchstone of an Anarch, and he died on Cam territory. So they said no. And so I pushed for Baron Archibald to cow them to my cause, to get the Hecata to do their damn job. And he refused. We have contacts among the Hecata. They're valuable allies of the Anarchs. So I said, fuck him. I turned my back on the Anarchs. I waited all these years, and there was only one Anarch who said that he would put the Hecata in their place. Oh, that Barry Lovelace became the warlord. Oh, he would have fucking made them do it at long last. And that's on you. She grits her teeth as she stares at Tig and Bouncer. Instead, Dinesh got in and all he cares about is screwing with the cam. And so my Toby never found peace. And now, this platform, this thing on the bay, so they can get more of this Eternium, more of this fucking rock that he died for. He's called out to me. He called out to me, Marion. He said, I need to help him find peace. And so I figured, if the Hecata won't do it willingly, then I will make them. Everyone knows your father, Marion. Everyone knows what he represents. Everyone knows once upon a time, his name pulled sway. And it just so happened that he was in the hospital where this wretch, she gestures at Dr. Giovanni's headless corpse, could get to him. And now you tell me you know nothing of this?
Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I really don't have a clue. She's genuinely sorry. And she says, look, I'm mostly left on my own devices.
Yet you're the one who took the bait. I thought I meant to play you and Dawkins against each other. Get back at the Hecata and get back at Pentex. Kill two birds with one stone. And I fucking fucked up! I fucked up! She slams her fist at the concrete. And once again, it seems as if the whole warehouse rumbles. And yet, here you are. So I throw myself before you, Ms. Duncern. Help me where your clan did not. Put Toby to rest. That is all I ask. And if you do it, you'll never hear from me again.
Quickly, how able is Marion to help with One Oblivion?
With One Oblivion, you would be capable of it, but it would not be easy, especially if he's indeed a restless spirit. He's probably going to be hostile. He's probably going to try to attack you. He's going to require some subdual. But, Marion, you do have contacts in the Hecata who can assist. You could, you could bring... You could get them to give you cross. If you wanted the assistance.
I think I will.
You are capable of doing it yourself, but you know that cross is a prodigy. And it's also low-ranked enough in the clan that you could probably employ its services without having to really answer for it. But then there would be other complications. She said he died on Pentex property. You would have to get into the Pentex refinery, which I'll coincidentally point out is a thing that Cross has also done before. That didn't occur to me, though.
And that was surprisingly easy.
Yeah, but you'd have to get in, risk stirring up trouble with Dawkins. And is it really worth it? Are the cons, are the risks worth helping this single Nosferatu bring her touchstone to peace?
No, I think Marion's sympathetic.
Sees something in your face, and suddenly the look of anger, the look of disbelief on her own shifts into something resembling a mixture of pleading and relief. She crawls forwards, stammering, You'll help?
Yeah, I think I will.
He died on Pentex property, right there in the middle of their refinery. You'll have to sneak in. I thought I was gonna have to blackmail you into doing it. If Dawkins finds you trespassing on his domain, well, you'd have the weight of the Anarchs come down upon you. And you'll do it willingly?
For some reason, I find myself moved.
And she turns, slowly gazes upon each of the rest of the coterie in turn. And the rest of you? I was prepared to dispose of you. Deal with Marion alone. I thought that even my blackmail had its limits, that even that would not prove sufficient to cause Samantha Stokes' entire coterie to trespass on Elliot Dawkins' domain. But Marion...
Why did you blackmail Samantha as well? It doesn't add up.
Well, I thought...
What
Marion,
did you expect? Of course she'd bring down the full weight of her coterie upon you.
You are Wolf, are you not? She says. I have not seen you, but I've heard of you.
You normally don't see me.
If she sent you, then... Well, she considered this a mess to clean up, did she not?
I'm still figuring out whether that's the case or not.
Not all messes need to be cleaned the same way, and it seems like this is a right mess. Look, I can't speak to what the Anarchs done or didn't do with you. I never heard of you before, but... Dawkins is up to something. If you got info that can help us figure out what's going on before it fucking blows up in our faces, good. Aside from that, I'm just here to back her up. I point to Marion, because she's been making you back your mates up.
Oh, a gangrel, right?
Yep.
You know, there's another of your clan, Barry Lovelace.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this right now. Oh, sorry, go on.
He told me if he was to become warlord, that he would grind the Hecata under his boot. He would make them serve us. That my touchstone would find peace.
I'm sorry to tell you that Barry is very good at making promises and not too good at following through. And the Setites have him on a string. They got him on a leash. They wouldn't have moved unless it was convenient to them.
Pauses for a moment. And then she peers towards Wolf and she says, there is one among Samantha Stokes' coterie. Valerie Masters. She got into Pentex last time. I thought if I blackmailed Samantha Stokes, I would have the two people that I need. Marion Duncern and Valerie. Instead, she sent her cleaner. So what do you think? Am I a mess that needs cleaning up?
I suppose that depends on Marion, doesn't it?
Marion said she'd help you, so.
Honey, I would strongly recommend you don't try and change my mind.
Miss Duncern will help, says Estelle. And that means, if you want to play nice, if you want Sam to not raise a stink, you gotta help too. Because you're a coterie, ain't you?
I'm not so sure about that. It's all good in my books.
She
I
raises
think
her
it is
hands.
less way. Less mess for you to clean up after the fact, eh?
My sentiments exactly.
She raises her hands, retracting her claws in a show of being non-threatening. And then she says, I didn't expect Wolf. Didn't expect the cleaner, but this could be good. What if, Wolf, what if I told you there is something happening in Pentex that will pull the wool away from your eyes, that will let you see Samantha Stokes in her true light? That there is something, a mess boiling under the surface, ready to destroy each and every one of us.
Wolf casually walks up to her, grabs the hilt of the blade and pulls it out of her chest, and says, I don't think that's my problem.
And
Well,
what
I'm kind
is?
of interested.
If we are to have a problem, how can I resolve it? You could destroy me, would clean the mess. Yes. But you'd be
We're happy
doing
to assist you, but that's where my interest lies, is just cleaning this up and being done with it.
a mess.
I
to
don't care
clean
for
up.
politics.
Samantha's lapdog. She points you at something and tells you to make it disappear. Oh, that you could see her for what she really is. But no matter. As long as you're not going to kill me, I'll not push you. I will not push you to grapple with things that you're clearly not prepared to accept. I've been keeping an eye on Pentex for quite some time. I have a potential way in. I can help you if you'll accept my help. But I'll need time. A night to make sure all the pieces are in place. So I need to know now, as a coterie, what was my problem? Is it now yours as well? Are we in this together?
Okay.
I mean, I
Marion's
think
alright with
this plan seems pretty sound.
Marion, this is what Marion wants, I'm in.
Let's do it.
Bounce it.
Then I owe you... Yep, bouncer.
Hmm.
Bouncer just nods.
Suppose I am as well then.
Then I owe you all a great boon. A life debt. Because that is what Toby McGrath was worth to me. She stands up, brushes dust and dirt and a couple more dead moths off her leather vest and off her jeans. And then she sighs. I'm sorry. I tried to stake you. I didn't expect that you would be this forthcoming. I thought that the Hecata would know who they were dealing with. And I was prepared to do what I had to do to get you to work for me. So I apologize. For what it's worth, this warehouse is one of my havens, not my regular one. But if you ever need a place to lie low, well, not many know that this place is fully equipped. Not many know that there's a secret basement just underneath the foreman's office, and it's got everything you need to lie low for the day. And I'll give it to you as thanks. And a show of good faith. She holds out a gnarled skeletal hand. So, friends?
Close enough. No, you ain't getting a Christmas card just yet.
Right. Well, I won't be needing the storage room underneath anymore. You can go and spend the rest of your night and your day as you wish. Tomorrow night, I'll get in contact. We'll figure out how we're going to do this. And we will uncover that which the rest of the kindred in this city refuse to accept festers right under their noses. And with that, we'll end the session here.